Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children not to hear my words, what they mean, what they say. Mother, Mother, can you keep them in the dark for life? Can you hide them from a wedding world? Oh, Mother.
Hello all, and welcome to this. And as most of you have seen, for those of you that don't know what those dates are, those are dates in which Ring of Honor and TNA are putting shows head-to-head against each other. First time this has happened. This is pretty big news. TNA and Ring of Honor are going to put shows head-to-head, pretty much in the same area for the first time, and this will be interesting to follow for various reasons. Now, I'm going to start with the TNA side of things, and then I'll go to the Ring of Honor side of things. This is something that TNA's probably needed to do for a while now, as far as look at Ring of Honor as competition, if that's what they're doing, because that's definitely what they're doing. And I think that it's important because I think that they do need to judge themselves against Ring of Honor head-to-head to see just how good they can draw against Ring of Honor. And why I say that is this. Keep in mind that TNA normally draws anywhere between 200, 500 fans. Well, 200, 700 fans probably, but normally 200 and 500 fans for these types of house shows. They've drawn as many as 1,500 in the U.S. They've drawn more outside the U.S. They'll probably draw a bunch, I would imagine, in Canada, simply because when they go to their Canadian shows, simply because WWE has not been there in so long, and there's such anti-WWE stance and all that sort of thing. But anyways, I would expect them to draw very well in Canada. That's what I'm trying to say. But they draw the same type of numbers, basically, that Ring of Honor drew when they went out west to Vegas and to San Francisco to play the Cow Palace. Which, by Ring of Honor standards, if you go to Ring of Honor's message boards, most of them put that as somewhat of a failure as far as attendance went. There were various reasons for that, but basically, most Ring of Honor fans looked at that as a failure as far as attendance went, not as far as the shows, but show quality, but as far as the attendance went. Now, TNA's coming, we'll start with the Ohio shows, because normally when Ring of Honor runs there, they draw anywhere between probably about 700 and 1,000 fans. That's a lot for TNA for a house show. If TNA wants to draw that much, if TNA wants to outdraw, which they definitely have to do, because this is a kind of a win-lose situation. If they don't outdraw Ring of Honor, there's no excuse, basically, because they have the star power. And not only that, but they have guys which you would imagine the people, even the Ring of Honor fans, want to go see. Joe, Homicide, Daniels, AJ, those types of guys, which they haven't gotten to see in a while. And there's a lot of talk that some people may go, Ring of Honor fans might go to that TNA show under the guys that they may never get to see a TNA show again. They'll be able to see a Ring of Honor show again. Dayton is one of Ring of Honor's normal stops. They do usually about 4 shows a year. So there you go. But for TNA, from my opinion, for TNA to do that, they're going to have to bring pretty much everybody. They're going to have to bring Sting, Angle, the guys that don't usually come to a lot of the house shows, and they're going to have to put on a good show. And it's going to be interesting to see if they do that. And if they do that, and if they can outdraw Ring of Honor, which they should be able to outdraw Ring of Honor, more power to them. A lot of Ring of Honor fans are kind of up in arms about this, but in my opinion, this isn't a big deal because the WWF and the NWA Crockett Promotions used to do this all the time. They did this in Philly, they did this in New York, they did this in Boston, they did this in Chicago, they did this in Baltimore, St. Louis. They did this all over the place where they would run shows head-to-head. They did it here in Houston a couple times after I moved here in '88. So there you go. So this isn't anything new, so people shouldn't be all up in arms about this. And I think this is a good test for TNA just to see how well they can do in a house show environment. And to see if they can shut myself, Moral Virus, numerous other people on other websites up about the fact that they don't outdraw Ring of Honor, and they should outdraw Ring of Honor. So there we go. On Ring of Honor side of things, it's a bit different. They basically have a win-win situation. If they don't outdraw TNA, people can say, well, they don't have a TV deal, they don't have the national exposure, They probably didn't spend as much money on advertising and that sort of thing as TNA did. So there's, they basically, TNA should outdraw them. If they outdraw them, well, then it's even a bigger deal because it's, for the very reasons I just stated. Particularly the Dayton show. Now, the Long Island shows and the New York show, I would imagine that TNA will probably draw them because those are places where Ring of Honor has, even talked by a lot of the fans that Ring of Honor probably even shouldn't play there anymore for various reasons. But one of those reasons, by the way, is one of the things Ring of Honor needs to do to step up. If this continues to happen, if them and TNA continue to run shows on the same date in the same area, up the venues a bit. The venues they play are, bottom of the barrel venues. A lot of the times, not all the time, but most of the time they play bottom of the barrel venues. And that's kind of sad because in a lot of these venues they could play bigger venues. Lots of fans point that out. Lots of fans point out that the reason why the attendances aren't where they feel like they should be in some of these cities is because they're not playing in bigger venues, in better venues. They feel like if they played in better venues they could draw even more people. That's always a big debate on the Ring of Honor boards. So that's something to keep in mind. And hopefully Ring of Honor kind of steps up their game well and brings that. And who knows, maybe they'll make some calls over to Japan and bring some guys in that might draw in some more fans. This will be very interesting to follow. This will be a lot of fun to follow, just from, in my opinion, just from a stance to see just which company is where. Because this is kind of a good gauge of that, just to see, how each company is going. There's already some people saying, that they're probably going to draw different fans. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think the diehard fans, if TNA played here, I would go see it, so I could see Joe and AJ and and everybody. So I do think the diehard fans would go see TNA live just so they could see some of these guys live that I've never seen AJ live, I've never seen Christopher Daniels live, so I would like to see that. There's a couple other, I've never seen Homicide live. I'd love to see Homicide live as well. So there's all of that as well, part of it. So just keeping all that in mind, this should be a lot of fun to follow, should be very interesting to follow, and hopefully, both companies, hopefully this doesn't hurt either company, hopefully it helps both companies because they start stepping up their game, they start, doing more and more. Particularly, if Ring of Honor can show that they can outdraw TNA, that helps them go to a television network and say, look, we can outdraw TNA without television and their house shows. We have the fan base, put us on television, please. So there's that as well. So this will be very interesting to follow. It'll be a lot of fun to follow. This is something I just wanted to come on here and talk about. Haven't been able to talk about a lot of news-oriented things. Hopefully I'm going to be able to talk about a few more of those things, as this last Tuesday was kind of D-Day for where I work. So it all kind of goes downhill. Everything will be hunky-dory come, hopefully, after New Year's. So anyways, like I said, hopefully this will be interesting to follow. I hope everyone has fun following this. I'm sure we'll have a lot of flame wars because of it. But again, TNA, this is something I felt TNA should have done probably for the last 2 years, because I do feel that TNA made a mistake not pulling their talent from Ring of Honor when they should have, in my opinion. And on the other side of things, I think, this is a chance for Ring of Honor to kind of step up their game a bit and kind of see, what they can do when one of the big boys comes and, kind of muscles them out a little bit. So, there you go. That's all for this one. I will check you guys later.
Let's ride.